It's the Anything Goes podcast. It's your boy Sean Peoples. Hey, people, if you like what we got going on, you like our vibes, you like the movement, like, subscribe, share, comment in the comment section, ring the notification bell so you can keep up what we got going on. Tell your friends, tell your family about the Anything Goes podcast, man. We're a movement. Hey, I want to address something with you people today. I want to address the pandemic that's going on in Jamaica. Not the disease itself, not the virus that's running rampant around the world, but the pandemic of murder and crime. Not the pandemic of trying to accuse music of being the fault of what's going on in the country, but the culture itself. And I want to step back and look at what's taking place in the country right now. You know, some of it could be blamed on poverty. Some of it could be blamed on the government. Some of it could be blamed on children not having their fathers around, their parents around. And some of it could be blamed on the gangster culture itself in Jamaica. You know, the badman culture, the tuggy culture, the garrison culture of how these guys present themselves. I mean, I guess we all go through it, so I'm not casting judgment on the whole environment, but at some point, we have to address that it's out of hand. And at some point, we have to start taking responsibility for a lot of the stuff that's going on there, whether it's you, me, whether it's parents, grandparents, the government. Somebody has to take accountability for their actions of what's taking place in the country. And we can't blame it on musicians. We can't blame it on people that's supposed to be role models. We have to blame it on the infrastructure of the country. We have to blame it on the infrastructure of the household, how these parents are raising their kids, and how the government system is set up to help or not help the people in the community. I look at it like this, man. I think that we're in a situation where the violence in Jamaica is getting worse because there's not a lot of jobs. There's not a lot of resources to make money. But when you look at the other side of it, there's also violence where these guys are making money, like over in the scamming area and the drugs area. There's still a lot of violence over in that area. So we can't negate the fact that the culture itself is violent. I also want to take time to look at what the Prime Minister said the other day about the music being a part of the problem. No, sir. The problem is that these guys seem to feel like they don't have anything else to live for. And that's a big problem when it comes to anywhere in life. When you go to the Middle East, when you come to America, when you go to Jamaica, Mexico, when people feel like they have nothing to live for, you'll see the worst part of them. When people are poor, they're hungry, and they want to survive, you're going to see the worst of them. I was listening to a voice note the other day about two young men that went to a lady to rob her, and instead of robbing her, I guess they feel she kind of talked them out of robbing her. So she didn't have a lot of money to give them at the time, so she spoke herself out of the robbery, really. So she ended up giving them a couple of dollars, and these young men started offering to kill people for her. Simple. They wanted her, if it was somebody in her family, somebody at her job, any old friend, somebody that bothered her, these guys went as far as to show her the weapon, give her their number so she can call them and talk to them about setting up a plot for murder. And they were telling her that's what they do. So it has come to this point in the country now with the violence, the situation of poverty, that these guys are freelancing themselves to people for murder. They're gun for hire. So, and I've heard stories about a guy killing somebody for a little bit less than 5,000 Jamaican dollars. I've heard a few stories like that around the place, and it's just come to a point where, is this really where we're headed to? I mean, we're already there, but is this really where we're gonna get a point to where we're gonna scare off returning resident, scare off people that want to come back to the country and do different things? How can we contain this pandemic of violence, the crime, the murders? How can we do this? We simply cannot do this without the government. We simply can't do it without the parents. And we can't do it without people wanting to make a difference. And we can't do it without taking some of these guys out of poverty. I'm not saying that it's only poverty that's causing these guys to do these things, but it would help in a lot of areas. Cause you have some guys who feel like they have nothing else to offer to the community other than to be a bad man, other than to be a killer, other than to be somebody that run around and do all types of nefarious things. When I was listening to the brother speak on the voicemail of how the lady was in fear of her life, and it reminded me of a situation somebody told me. I won't mention your name because they're an avid listener of the podcast. It reminded me of a story that they tell me about somebody walking up on them at a time they was going to school, and the only reason why the guy didn't end up taking her and killing her is because a couple of people walked out and he told her that, yo, today I just a lucky day. And then walk when I left her. And, that always shook her up from what she tells me. That, it always put her in a place of being nervous about coming back to the country. And me and her husband are real good friends. And he's an American, she's a Jamaican. But he's into the culture. So he's always asking me, like, bro, what's going on? And, and I'm trying to explain to him that some of this stuff comes back from slavery days. A lot of this stuff plays a part in how the so-called first world countries dominated the third world countries with the economy and all the stuff like that. But Jamaica government plays probably the biggest part in all of this because they're the ones that are doing the mischievous stuff, that they're getting money from different countries. Money is coming up missing. They're getting help from certain places and not utilizing the help properly to help the people in the community. They're building on the infrastructure, but they're using people out of the country to build on the infrastructure. That's not doing anything for the people inside of the country because you're taking the money now out of the country and sending it to another country. So these guys are going up to these contractors and basically trying to get money from them. They're going there and extorting some of the contractors. So you have to put police and military around them. And I'm not saying I agree with none of that. But if the government itself is now not putting the citizens of the country in a place where they can win, sometimes the citizen may have to take it up on their hands to try and win. And even though taking this up on their hand is a bad thing, one would say they understand what's going on. Now, I'm not completely saying that I understand. I don't agree with the stuff that's going on. But from a light of being a person that's from the ghetto, that's from the garrison, that's from Americans would say from the hood, I can understand when a person can't find a way out, how they resort to being some of the worst persons, being some of the worst characters you have known. But I want to skip over that for a minute, and I want to talk about how if the government steps in with help to some of these youths in the garrison, how a lot of this stuff can change. Because I don't think, for me, myself, that I would feel safe with a female relative of mine just running around free in Jamaica. I know they do it all the time, and nothing has happened to them yet so far. But the thought of what's going on right now, it's mind wrecking if you're a father or you're a compassionate person to women in your family. Uh, Looking at all the things that happened to women within the last few days in Jamaica has been disastrous on my mental, to be honest with you. Some of it, it was so much of it that going on. I was trying to cover some of it, but it came to a point where I just didn't want to cover it anymore. So that's why you see I kind of fall back off of it, because it kind of get to a point where it was just ridiculous, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. But the point of this conversation is, man, the culture is violent. We have a violent culture, and people may not want to admit to that. I'm a Jamaican, and I'm admitting to it. I know other Jamaicans that admit to it, but I have police friends that and tell me, dog, don't say this, dog, don't say that. But the fact is the fact, and even though they may agree with what's going on, they don't want to express that openly out. I mean, we're not turning off tourism from Jamaica. We're trying to get people to combat this whole situation and make it better. So we don't have to talk about, what are we saying to turn off tourism in Jamaica? We talk about a lot of the bad because that's what we see. We talk about a lot of the negative because that's what we see. When we see more positive, we will talk about more positive. But at this point, this time, we don't see negatives. We don't see positives. We're seeing a lot of negatives. You might have one or two positives here or there, but the negative overshadowed the positives. And we're in Corona, in a lockdown situation. Look how many murders that's taking place right now during this whole time, while there's a lockdown, while there's this going on, and the murders is still just going crazy, all over the place. So it's rough, and we don't want to come up with any excuses. And I don't want to hear excuses from Jamaicans, and I don't want to hear excuses from family members or friends just trying to turn the other cheek to the situation, because that's not going to help. They say the first step of a druggie, alcoholic, is to admit that they have a problem. We have to admit that there's a problem. We can't be saying murders happen in America, murders happen in Trinidad, murders happen in Mexico. Y'all don't live there. You live in Jamaica. So the problem that's there, we need to be attended to, not passed off. I had a family member tell me that, listen, I murder them who go on in Jamaica. It not around me. So that's why I was saying we become desensitized to the fact that murders are happening in Jamaica when it's not happening around us. You know what I'm saying? When it's not happening to me, it's kind of like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? So people kind of get that kind of messed up, and it's not a good thing. Stop blaming music. Stop blaming other people for our problems. Be accountable for our actions. Stop looking at the next man because he got away with something and say, why didn't your kid get away with it? Correct your kid before it gets to that point. Correct your friend before it gets to that point. Look out for your fellow citizens. Look out for your countrymates. Look out for the betterment of your country in general. You know what I'm saying? And maybe things would change. That's just my 2 cents on it. You know, maybe it will change. Maybe it won't. Who knows? But at this point, we have to do something, and we haven't been doing much. So let's talk about the problems. Let's try to address the problems. Let's form groups. Let's donate, sponsor, help, find ways to keep the violence, the abusive culture against women, the crime, and to get some more jobs in the country. And then maybe the country will be just a little better for the people that are living there and for residents of the country that live abroad. Like me, my friends, a couple of family members. We would love to see a change in the country, because I don't like hearing Jamaicans saying, I don't want to go back there. That's your home. We want to go back there, but you don't want the people in the country to be scared to go back there. So that's my 2 cents for now. I'm going to get my brothers to, when they have some free time, for us to sit down and discuss a little bit more about this. So it's your boy Sean Peoples. This is the Anything Goes podcast. If you like our movement, you like what we got going on, like, subscribe, share, ring that bell so you can get all the information when we drop it. You know how it goes. It's Sean Peoples, man. The pandemic is not the disease. For me, it's the violent culture. We out.